Hi everyone, it's great to be back on the podcast, and once again it's a slightly different format, slightly different dynamic. Today I'm going to attempt to respond to a number of questions around life and leadership that you have put out there into the ether, and in order to do so I've got a couple of friends and colleagues from across the pond, Lydia and Jonathan, who are going to help me, and we're going to have a kind of conversation. So hi Lydia, hi Jonathan. Lydia is actually my daughter, Jonathan is my friend, and they both work for Arable. Where are you guys?
We are currently in London at Arable HQ here in the centre of London.
Wow, and you're sitting next to each other for those who can't see the podcast and just hear it. This is the Arable Leader Podcast. I'm Karl Martin, and we're exploring true, brave, kind, curious leadership, leading from your soul. You having a good day?
We're having a great day.
Fantastic day.
Very wet day. London is very wet.
And you ready for this?
Oh, so ready. I think we're probably more ready than you are, because you've not seen these questions yet.
So here's how we're going to frame today. Someone once said to me, a problem only continues to exist in the absence of the right conversation. So it's not that we're going to solve problems today, but we are going to start conversations. And so I actually don't know what questions I'm going to be asked. So you can't hold me to my answers as if they're definitive truth. I'm just telling you what I think, and I have opinions, right? I have thoughts, and I have ideas, and I have concepts. So I'm going to trust you to continue the conversations with yourself and with others as you try and pick through this leadership journey. So I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Okay, so we're going to start with an easy one. How can leaders practice vulnerability without losing the trust of their teams?
I would say that vulnerability is absolutely vital as far as trust is concerned. In other words, you have to have a level of vulnerability in order to be able to build trust. People need to know who you are. People need to know you beyond the office, beyond the workplace, because leadership is entirely relational. So I can't lead you if I can't know you. And if I can only know you as far as the numbers are concerned and what you do at work is concerned, and I don't know whether you have family and I don't know whether you're having a hard time, then it's very difficult to build the kind of relationship that will build the kind of team that we need. I guess behind the question is there is what I would call toxic vulnerability or over vulnerability, people wanting to spew their life out over everybody else. I guess the question would be, who is this for? Who is this piece of vulnerability for? Who is this information for? How does it serve them? Is it just for me to feel good about myself or to find a place to deposit my stuff? Or is it actually going to build the team? Is it going to build the relationships? And is it going to enable us to reach the targets that we've set for ourselves? So my instinct is the answer, most helpful answer to the question is, who is in the chair? Who is in the seat? Who is in the core of the relationship I'm having, the conversation I'm having with myself about why this is important for me to share right now?
It sparked a thought in me around, I often hear the phrase, I've got a vulnerability hangover. And I wondered,
I've never heard that phrase. Talk to me about that.
I think it's more for the external processes around us, which I would be one, and so would you.
Thanks.
I've heard people feeling exposed the next day after they've perhaps overly shared, and I guess where do we have space and safety in teams to be able to share vulnerably without getting that hangover?
Yeah, and so I think two things. Firstly, you need to create the kind of space where you can have the kind of conversations that would enable you to be fully human and therefore to show up at your best at work. So from time to time, it's helpful to say, hey, this is not about targets. This is not about KPIs. This is just about us. How are you doing? Tell me what's going on in your life. I think the second thing is the power of the pause is underrated. The power of the ability, irrespective of your personality type, irrespective of your wiring, the power of your ability to stop for a second and respond rather than react to what's going on gives you a choice. It enables you to have an opportunity to say this and not this far and not that far. And I think that's true of almost any conversation you're going to have, almost any team meeting you're going to be involved in. The ability to create enough margin to make a great choice about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it is vital.
We have a question from one of our listeners who is also talking around relationships and how do you solve and build solid friendships while feeling wounded by past friendships, colleagues and family.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's normative, isn't it? I mean, if you're going to risk friendship, if you're going to risk relationship, then you're going to end up with some pain in your life, and some relationships that are not going to go well. But that's the nature of being human, and that's the nature of being a great leader, actually. The ability to trust when you know people will let you down because people are human is fundamental. And one of the things that I teach a lot around is how trust operates and trust works. So humor me and stay with this thought for a moment. If you grew up in a relatively stable home, and I know not everyone did, then your first experience of life was naive trust. You trusted everyone. You trusted the tooth fairy. You trusted Santa Claus, Father Christmas. You trusted your parents could never do anything wrong. And then at an early stage, something happened in your life. Someone let you down. Someone rejected you. And very quickly, you mistrusted something. Very quickly, the default goes from trust to distrust. And that's the way we operate for the most of the rest of our adult lives. We distrust things. We think someone's trying to sell us something. We think someone's trying to do over on us. We think someone's trying to beat us. And so we approach life with guards and boundaries and walls. I foundationally believe that the secret to great leadership is finding a mature trust, the far side of mistrust. In other words, you have to posture yourself towards trust, knowing that people will let you down. Now, the way in which I do this is, and I teach this, is you have to build the kind of relationships that will enable you to not show up cynically in this world. It's 3 relationships you need. Someone you sit at the feet of. I was speaking to someone this week that I sit at the feet of, someone who knows more than me, has run further than me, is better than me, maybe older than me, is wiser than me. I'm going to humble myself and sit at that person's feet. I'm going to trust them. Someone you look in the eye of, people around you who are your friends. They understand you. They'll call you out when you're being an idiot and you won't punch them in the face. And then people who you pour yourself into, people who sit at your feet. If you don't have people that you're pouring yourself into, you become intellectually obese because everyone's pouring themselves into you. But if you build those kind of trusted relationships in life, then even though people will hurt you and wound you and upset you, you can still walk through life relationally and not so guarded that you cannot be useful in this world. As far as the wounds themselves are concerned, Lydia, I think that so many of us get hurt, get wounded, and then bury that wound and don't deal with it. The problem with that is that it goes septic and causes external damage, not just to you, but to everyone around you. And that whenever someone touches up against that wound, it hurts you and ends up hurting them. So exposure is the only way to closure, which I know is very cheesy. But exposing that wound, speaking to someone, dealing with it, recognizing why you always react the same way, recognizing why the same people always irritate you and cause you pain and concern, recognizing why you have this overreaction about that thing the whole time, getting that out in the open allows you to have choices around the healing of that thing, and then your wound can become a scar, which can become a strength. that was way longer than I imagined.
That's good. It's good. We've only got 2 questions for you, so that's perfect.
Keep going, guys.
So I often talk to folks who are either early career or mid career, and for them, the prospect of vulnerability, particularly with their managers who may not be the paragon of arable way, true, brave, kind, curious leaders, that kind of vulnerability is really scary because they don't know really what they're going to get back, and oftentimes, stepping outside of their comfort zone, being in that liminal space, maybe failing, can be really scary, really terrifying, and potentially have really serious negative career ramifications. So for those people, particularly who are early career, mid-career, how can they get over or, potentially even embrace that fear of failure as a leader?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's really hard, and it's very real. My instinct is, yes, it's very difficult. Yes, it's very challenging, and yes, you may get hurt in the middle of it. But it's absolutely the right way to approach leadership and life. You don't want to be defined by the toxicity of the person that you're afraid of. In other words, you're smart enough to say, my instinct and ethos and my attitude is going to be credibility, reliability, vulnerability, relationality, transparency, true, brave, kind, curious, even if those who lead me and have power over me are not going to carry those things. Now, I don't need to be stupid. I don't need to give people information that I know they're going to do bad things with. So in other words, in your early career and in your mid-career, I want to encourage you to begin to build the muscles of the kind of character leadership, of the kind of team leadership that's going to enable you to become the kind of leader that you wish you had. Now, that's going to be a dance, right? Because not everyone can handle your vulnerability, your transparency. Some people will be jealous. Some people will not understand it. And in this particular moment, in what I would understand to be a significant paradigm shift in the way in which generations understand life, leadership, the world itself, there is always going to be this dance between what I have to do because I have to do it and what I want to do because this is who I am and who I want to become. So I would say, measure your vulnerability, measure your transparency, work out how and who can handle what you're going to bring. But you have to instinctively posture yourself towards that if you want to become the leader that is unlike the leaders that you find very difficult.
Looking at the current kind of macro leadership landscape, whether it is political leaders or executives, entrepreneurs, there is, I think, a sense that you've got to hustle, you've got to get after it, you've got to want it more than anyone else.
Yes.
On the other hand, history provides us with these great sort of legends of leaders who were reluctant to lead, who stepped away from it. Obviously, like the great American example is George Washington, of kind of saying, I've done my thing, I'm going to go be a farmer now, I'm done. And there's even more examples from history. But so do we want leaders who are reluctant to lead? Like, is ambition a bad thing, or is it a good thing? Is there balance in there? In this current moment, how do we find that balance?
Yeah, I think ambition is a neutral thing. I think it's what you attach ambition to that becomes either positive or negative. I mean, ruthless ambition is a highly negative thing. We see it all the time in the world in which we live particularly in the macro scale. But humble ambition and others-orientated ambition, selfless ambition is beautiful and powerful and changes the world. I think the issue is what are you ambitious for? And I think some of us have drunk the Kool-Aid or drunk from the fountain of success is about a title, success is about a role. Success is about a number. Success is about whether you're recognized by a number of people or you have a number of followers. And I just think we need to redefine the nature of success. Success is fulfilling the potential that was placed in you when you were born. Success is becoming whole as a person. Success is influencing the people that you are supposed to influence for good. Success is bringing about the change that you have an opportunity to bring about for good. Success is playing your part, making a dent in the universe. So I'm all for ambition. And I think I referred to a previous answer. It depends who's at the center of your focus. You are the project. It's about you. The transformation that is supposed to happen through you first has to happen in you, but you're not the object. You're not what it's all about. It's about everybody else. It's about a bigger piece. It's about a team. It's about an organization. It's about a culture. So ambition becomes ruthless and toxic and unhealthy if it's selfish, if it's owned by you and it's for you, and it's driven by some kind of idea that it's about how much you achieve and how much money you get and how much kudos you have. Ambition that is healthy is about how much impact did I have on the world around me? How did I raise other people up? How did I help them become who they might be? How did I create a better environment for my team? How did my business or my organization enable others in the world to become more human, enable others to reach their ambitions? So maybe that's a bit Pollyanna. Maybe it is. Even as I'm speaking, it sounds a little. But I think it's about changing the focus of and our definition of success. If you are ambitious, if that's the way you're wired, then run at it with everything that you've got. Make aggressive mistakes, not passive ones. Go for it, but continue to check the ego, because the ego is the thing that will disable you, will turn that ambition into something that could easily be very cancerous.
It is that topic of success, and we're all trying to define it and work out what it really means. And everyone has their own definition. We have taken a stab in some ways towards defining what we would call healthy leadership, success in leadership, which would be true, brave, kind, and curious. And we've had a question from our listeners around what are the 3 to 5 most important things every leader should incorporate into their life to ensure that they are a successful, well-rounded leader, which we would define as being true, brave, kind, and curious.
Well, it won't surprise you that I'm going to talk about the practices that I've written about in The Cave, the Road, the Table, and the Fire as moments and experiences in any given day or any given week that can ground you in those qualities. And I think maybe even to refer to a previous question, if you spend your leadership life focusing on character and the qualities, the mindsets and the heart sets of a great person, then it's way more difficult for you to be ruthlessly ambitious. Because if you become true, brave, kind, and curious, if you become integrous and authentic and courageous and empathic, and every day is a school day, which basically means you have to humble yourself to learning, then you have an opportunity to become the kind of person that actually lives for others, lives for a bigger conversation and a wider world. So if I were to give you 5, you probably wouldn't remember them. But let me try and be as simple as possible. First principle is start the day well. In order to start the day well, and we talk about the cave, you need to finish the day well. So if you're going to bed at midnight, having consumed food and alcohol late in the night and watched crap on your TV, then I can tell you your day is not going to go in the direction that you want it to go tomorrow. So exchange the hours of 9 to 11 for 5 to 7 in the morning, because then you'll be at your most productive and you'll be able to show up in the day in the cave. The second thought is eat together with your team as often as you can. There's something about the dynamic and the visceral humanity of breaking bread together and talking about life together and drinking wine together and experiencing one another beyond the workplace that will enable you to be a better team in the workplace. I do this whenever we have a client. We try and have a table event where we actually talk about life and leadership and kids and stress and hassles, and it's a beautiful, beautiful moment. So whenever you have the opportunity, eat together. If you can get into a habit of journaling at the end of the day or the end of a week, it enables you to bundle up your learnings. Every experience that remains unprocessed stays unlearned. It enables you to be able to say, oh, I need to leave that behind and stop doing that. Oh, I need to take that forward because that was brilliant. Oh, I need to get right with that person and that situation. It's almost like a bundling of the day and then a clearing of the decks. And a final thought, I would suggest that once every quarter you go away. You do it for just one day and you process your life and you ask yourself, am I still moving in the right direction? Am I still pursuing character before I'm pursuing competencies? Am I still trying to be healthy? Is my ambition in check? How am I investing in my money? How am I investing in my health? How am I investing in my intellect? How am I investing in my relationships? How am I investing in faith, in something beyond all of that stuff? And the reason that's important is not just because it will give you focus, it's because it will begin to give you margin to make the kind of choices you need to make to be the kind of leader you want to be.
It's great.
Yeah, it's really good. So obviously when we introduced ourselves, we mentioned that we are in London, in our offices here, and you're in Dallas, Texas. And that makes us sitting down together, breaking bread, challenging.
Yeah, challenging.
Yeah, so we are a fully remote company. We've been remote since day one. When I came on board with you, Karl, I was here in London. You were up in Edinburgh. And we've been remote for coming up on 3 years now.
Yeah, we have members of staff in Chicago, Los Angeles, London, Scotland, Nashville, probably. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so speaking from your experience with Arable, how can leaders create that table time in today's remote hybrid work environment that still is focused on deep connection and community?
It's ideal, isn't it? It's maybe idealistic to be able to say, weekly you sit with your people at a table and you break bread and you drink wine and you talk about life. And that might be true for some of you, and if it is, wonderful. I suspect it isn't true for most of us, particularly in this day and age. Two thoughts, really. One, in the absence of being able to actually physically meet at the table, you have to have the ethos of the table in your daily and weekly lives. So one of the things that we try and do is when we have team meetings together, we try and not just make it business. We try and find out what's going on with one another. We try and celebrate one another's successes. We try and talk about family life. We make it as human as we possibly can, even though it's over Zoom, Google Meets, which is pixelated at times, and Microsoft Teams. So we do that on a regular basis. The second thing that we do is we get super intentional around having a couple of times a year when we fly everyone in and we do retreat together. And that retreat is about three things. It's about setting strategic plans and goals for the next year. It's about just humanizing our experience and being together in the same space. And it's about making sure that the how of what we do, if that makes sense, the how of what we do is kept in check, that we can actually with integrity say culture and strategy sit down for dinner. They don't, one doesn't beat the other up for breakfast or whatever it is in the phrase. We are beat the other one up for breakfast. What was that?
That's what we did this morning.
That's right. Lydia beat me up for breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day.
Just exactly. But just the idea that you don't have a great culture unless you have a great strategy, and you don't have a great strategy unless you have a great culture, and culture is everything that you do. And so being able to embody that and make it very tangible by being in the same space, by eating together, by drinking together, by doing runs together. And the final thing that I do personally is that I try and make an effort when I travel. I do a lot of flying to go and stay with my team. So, when I'm in Chicago, I will go stay with my friend Michael in Chicago. When I'm in Los Angeles, I will go for a meal with Emily and her family. And so it's about making sure that is as important, if not more important, than making sure that the KPI is ticked off or the to-do list is done. So eat together whenever you possibly can.
That's really good. I think we'll try some quick fire questions now. I've had a lot of questions about your personal life, your exercise routine, your skincare routine.
Great.
People
where did you get your glasses?
Where you got your glasses, your fashion sense.
Finlay & Co. London.
Finlay & Co. Shout out to Finlay. We are accepting sponsorships, so Finlay, if you're looking for a
keep
partner,
going.
We're out here. So Lydia, do you want to start us with the questions?
Yeah, I think let's go for more of a vulnerable one. But as we're all aware, you won't have a vulnerability hangover, Karl or Dad.
Yeah, go.
What are you reading at the moment?
Oh, I'm reading two things. Well, three things. I'm always reading the Bible because for me, it's the greatest book, and I'm sure that those of you listening know that I'm a man of faith, and I think whether you are a person of faith or not, the example of Jesus, just purely his leadership example, the way in which he lives his life is incredible, actually. So I'm constantly reading the Bible. I'm reading a book on coaching because I think that I should become a better and better coach every single day of my coaching life. And I'm reading a book which I can't find the title of. Jonathan, what's the title of the book that we're reading? About
Slow Productivity.
Yes,
Cal
Newport. Slow Productivity, which clearly I haven't read an awful lot of it, but it's sitting by my bedside, and I'm going after that right now.
Reading it slowly and productively.
Reading it slowly and productively, hopefully.
That is one of the things, actually, going back to that question around how do we foster deep connection and community as a remote team. We read
books
together, and it's not just always conversations about work and conversations even about our personal lives, but it's also learning together, which I think keeps us feeling really connected.
Yeah, we have a lot of conversations about new concepts and ideas and things that we're reading and articles that we've come across, which keep us sharp as well. It's great.
You're currently in a season of transition. You've moved from Scotland to the US, or in the process of moving. You are traveling mainly across the US, also internationally. You've written a book on cadence, and we all know that the human experience there's always resistance to any self-help or any good activity that will progress us. There's always a resistance. And when you have a life that is increasingly busy and not consistent in many ways, in that you're not waking up in the same room. How do you find cadence?
One of the reasons I wrote the book is because actually I've always found this difficult, and when I've had moments in my life when it has just been flow, it's because there's been cadence in my life and rhythm in my life that's been healthy. I think this is going to be the fight of my life, and it probably will be the fight of many people's lives, because life today is inherently busy. It's and I think that's natural. I think because of the advancement in technology, because of the ambition of people, because of our desire to connect with people, we're going to be busy. It's when busy becomes hurry that we have a problem. And so the book around cadence is about putting breakwaters into your life to be able to pause and stop and think and breathe and respond in helpful ways. And that's always going to be my challenge. I think, Lydia, the thing that I am waking up to the reality of in my mid-50s, when I should have woken up to the reality of it a long time ago, is that something like 50% of my ability to do this is to do with my physical health. That actually, if I'm going to think well, and I'm going to relate well, and I'm going to process well and help people well, I need to be well. And the being well thing is about sleeping. It's about eating. It's about nutrition. It's about drinking water. It's about exercising. It's about moving my body. And so I'm in a season where I'm trying really hard to address those things. So I'm trying to go to bed earlier. I've got more nutritional pills and stuff than you can imagine. Do I always take them? No, but I'm working towards that. I'm trying not to eat as much red meat. I'm trying to only drink alcohol at the weekend. Well, I am only drinking alcohol at the weekends. And actually it's making a difference. It makes me more alert. It gives me an opportunity to be more available. I'm running. This body was not built for running. I think I was built for fighting, but I punish myself in the mornings in order to, I hate it. I hate every moment of it. I hate getting out of bed. I hate putting on my training shoes. I hate going out and running. And then I feel amazing at the end of it when I've stopped sweating and everything else. So I do think the physical thing is super helpful, particularly if you travel. And I'd encourage you guys, because you're much younger, get this as discipline that creates habit, that creates lifestyle in your life now, and you will think better and you will lead better from that place. I don't know if that's the kind of response you were expecting, but that's what you're getting.
It's good.
It's very good. So I think, conscious of time, I don't want us to go on for too long, but this has been fantastic. The last question is kind of a spin on one sent in by Noel. What leadership skill sets, mindsets were you born with, and what did you develop?
Yeah.
That got you here today? Because obviously Karl in his mid-50s today that's on this podcast is a different man to Karl in his mid-20s, mid-30s, whoever. And so somebody in their mid-20s, mid-30s, might be listening to you or engaging with arable content and thinking, wow, how do I get there compared to where I am today?
Yeah. So let me approach the question from a slightly different angle. I think that everyone is a leader. I think that leadership is the greatest of human skills. And I think that at its most base level, it's about influence. It's about influencing yourself. It's about influencing others. It's about impacting the world in a small way or a large way. So I think everyone is a leader. I think there are some people who have a gift of leadership or almost an office of leadership. They are born with an ability to impact people, and you'll see that even in kids. Some kids will walk into a room and people will gravitate towards them, and they will assume being the captain of the football team or assume being the person when given an exercise who will lead the conversation and make it happen. So there are two distinct kinds of leadership. There is the natural leadership which is given to everyone, and then there is this almost this gift of or office of leader that certain people have. And I think I was born with that. I think I was born with an ability to walk into a room and see what needed to be done, and a responsibility that meant if someone's going to do something, I'm going to do it. I was the captain of the sports team. I was, the person that when no one else was doing something would grab hold of it and say, we got to do this thing. So I do think some of that is natural. I think what I have learnt is humility. I don't know 3/4 of the things I say I know, and I'm trying to learn them as I go along. I'm not good at certain things. I think humility is not thinking less of yourself or thinking of yourself less. I think it's thinking of yourself correctly. I think it's knowing I'm good at these things and I'm not good at these things. And some of those things I have to learn, and that's a good thing. Some of those things I will never have to learn, because it will be a disaster if you gave me that responsibility or you put me in that seat. I need other people around me. So I've had to learn that. I've had to learn that through falling, failing, being called out for it. But I think the journey of our lives is learning to know ourselves and then to lead ourselves. So Noelle will be a different personality, will have a different gift mix, different skill mix. Leaders come with a whole variety of different personality traits, different skills, different character traits that are carried. And she will have to learn different things to excel in her leadership. She might need to learn to be more confident. She might need to learn to express her opinion, because her opinion is valuable. People need to hear what she has to say. She might need to learn almost the opposite things that I need to learn. So it's a journey of your natural abilities, the things that are true of you as a person, dealing with your wounds, your scars, your influences, and why you show up the way you show up, what it feels like to be the other side of you, and embracing the reality that every single person on this planet has something to offer this planet, and that's the leadership journey. So it's a dance between what is natural, what is developed and grown in you as a leader.
Yeah, that's brilliant. You want to do one more, or we finish on that?
Yeah, one more. Come on, I'm loving this.
Stewardship or dominion? Which one is more important for you?
Wow. Well,
for what it's worth, I don't know what that means.
That's okay, but I'm just going to answer it anyway. Stewardship.
Okay, stewardship or dominion?
Yeah.
Stewardship is such a powerful and an important concept and reality for a leader in today's world. The idea that actually ownership is so detrimental in so many areas of your life. Every time you own something and hold it like this, it has the potential of beginning to own you and possess you. Stewardship is an ability to think longer, think further, think beyond you, think others, not just yourself, and hold things like this. Stewardship is a legacy leaving concept and characteristic. Ownership can become a very selfish, self-indulgent, myopic process. So I would like to think that I'm stewardship, not dominion. I'm sure there are moments when people look at my life and say he's dominion, he's dominating, but actually the reality is my ambition is to steward what I've been given and steward what I have for the generation around me and the generation beyond me. I think that's actually gold. Great question, Joseph.
For context, Joseph is my cousin, and I always think of him as 12 years old. He's definitely maybe 14.
Yeah, and super smart.
But just, that's the context on the question asker.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so speaking again about like folks who are mid-career, potentially working under a leader who has developed them, who has kind of taken them to a point where they are looking at stepping into that traditional leadership role, whether it is director level or even C-suite. From both sides, how do you manage that transition? Someone stepping into a leadership role for the first time and someone who's stepping away from a leadership role, maybe into retirement or into different kind of work. How do they develop the people under them to prepare them for stepping into a role that you don't know what it's going to be until you're in it?
Yeah, it's good. That's good. Dan Pink once wrote a book called Drive, in which he drew from research from MIT around incentivization. And the premise of the book, I hope I'm not doing a disservice, Dan, but the premise of the book is you're not incentivized by money. People are not incentivized by money, by which he means you're not going to get a better job because you give people $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 more, as long as you're paying them enough to make rent. And so he talked about three things that incentivize people: vision, autonomy, and mastery. And I tend to use that when people ask me, how do I know it's time to leave or move on? How do I know I've gained enough from this and I need to look for something else? I want to ask them those three questions. Vision. Is the vision of this organization still compelling to you? Does it move you in your brain, in your heart, and with your feet? Do you get out of bed in the morning and say, I want to go to work. I want to serve this vision, this purpose. I'm up for this. And because those things leak, by the way, there may have been a time when you went, okay, I'm up for this, and then after a while it becomes, it's just a job. Autonomy. Is there space for me to do my job, or am I being micromanaged? Am I basically just a minion for the man or the woman who is telling me what to do all the time? Do I have space to bring my best to the table? And then mastery. Am I still growing, or have I got stuck? Am I still learning, or am I stuck in this moment? So vision, autonomy, mastery is a helpful framework to be able to say, is it about time when I need to knock on the door and say, hey, I thank you so much, but I'm looking for something else right now because life is too short. And then from the other perspective, if you're a leader, if you're a manager, I think you owe it to your employees to be offering them these spaces to be able to be incentivized to show up to work as something more than just work. Give them a vision to live for. Have a very honest conversation about where you're going to direct them and where you're giving them space. Don't just abdicate responsibility and let them get on with it. And then offer them opportunities to grow, in their chosen specialized subject or in some other area of their life, because that ability, that muscle that is about development needs to be primed, needs to be developed. So I would say those things are important.
And from your own personal experience, when would you say it's time to move on or time to leave? How do you make that decision?
You make it with friends, because you don't trust the echo chamber of your own thinking. You make it not just from your head, but from your heart and from your gut. You make it in a rounded way, and you make it earlier than you think you should, by which I mean most people's instinct is to stay longer than they should. Most people are risk averse and comfort obsessed, and therefore what happens is we stay longer. We become calcified in our roles, in our thinking, in our position, and we find it way harder to move at that stage. I mean, I'm fascinated by the fact that I think that human nature is predisposed towards comfort. We want to make our lives comfortable. We expect at a certain stage in our life, somewhere around our late 40s and early 50s, to have reached optimum comfort, and then probably to be freewheeling down the other side of the mountain that we climbed up. And I'm always wanting to push people out of their comfort zones into growth, into fear, into liminal space, into off balance or threshold space, because I think that's where all creativity happens. That's where all growth happens. That's where all life actually happens. A comfort zone is wonderful for rest and recovery. You can't grow in a comfort zone. And growth is one of the signs of life.
Great.
Okay.
One of our listeners has asked, what is your family life like? And I just thought, as your eldest daughter, I'll take the liberties to answer that myself. And feel free, obviously, to feed in. But yeah, your family life. So you are a son, a brother, and a husband and a dad.
Yes, I am.
You have three brothers, oldest of four. You married my mum, who's brilliant, and Nikki, and you have four daughters. I am the eldest. And
the favourite, right?
Oh, well, we didn't need to say it. That's really
keep
that's
going,
not
keep
fair.
going.
That's not fair.
It's not true.
They know
either,
it. They know it.
Yeah, don't need to say it. I know it.
Anyway, family life is very different these days in many ways. We all lived in one place for a very long time in Scotland together. We would eat meals together every night. We would host and have a very open door with lots of friends and family coming through it. And now, we are all scattered around the world, and we are very close. We owe that probably to the family WhatsApp. But yes, I think we
owe that to the family WhatsApp. Maybe it's
Meta.
more than that.
If you're looking for any sponsorship opportunities, we're out here. WhatsApp, sponsored by. We're not sponsored by WhatsApp.
I think.
Just for context, I live in London. My youngest sister lives in London. Another sister lives in Scotland, and another sister lives in Nashville with her husband. And you guys, meaning Karl and Nikki, aka Mum and Dad, live
who knows
in different places around the US together as a unit, still married and happy.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's not dissimilar to the conversation around how you help a team create an idea of table. We do everything we can to do two things: to be in regular contact with one another, whether it's WhatsApp or on the phone or FaceTime or any of these other things. But we also do everything we can to be in each other's lives. So we all flew together to Utah for a break this summer. We'll do Christmas together in the borders of Scotland. We celebrate together whenever we possibly can, and we just want to be in each other's lives. And life is not perfect, and we don't live in the way today that our forefathers would have lived, and living around the corner from extended family. And you have to be intentional, not accidental about these things, or you end up losing one of the greatest gifts in life, which is family and friendship. And so we do everything we can for that. Does that mean it's easy when we're together? Absolutely not. Everyone has an opinion about everything, particularly about what I'm saying, what I'm doing, and what I'm wearing. Particularly my dress sense is a huge issue, which is so boring, but they have opinions about the whole thing.
I would say it keeps you humble.
Well, you would think.
Well, you would say that. So, Karl, thank you so much. I found that fantastic sitting here in this conference room, and I'm sure that everybody listening will find it helpful as well. I've been Jonathan.
Lydia.
And this has been the Arable Leader Podcast. If you have any thoughts, questions, ideas, please do get in contact with us. There is a form on our website. Just go to the podcast page or send us an email at podcasts@arableco.com. We read all of the emails and we would love to hear from you. So thanks again, and
thank you.
Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe for more of this stuff. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Amazing to have been with you. Let's go.
You've been watching The Arable Leader with Karl Martin. Subscribe for more episodes with great leaders. And you can also listen to The Arable Leader wherever you get your podcasts. For more resources for leading in a healthy way, visit arableco.com and check out Karl's new book, The Cave, the Road, the Table, and the Fire.